in planning at the moment is Stockport's first rooftop bar.
Oh, is this an exclusive?
It is actually.
It is actually. We didn't talk about it before.
Clip this up, here we go. Hello, we're here today at Loft in sunny Stockport for SK Proud, and we're here with Paul and Naomi from Kelsall Architects. How are we, guys?
Great, thank
That
you.
bit's done now.
We're good, thanks.
How are you guys feeling? It's a nice day. We're just saying it's
tropical in here.
It is.
It is, yeah.
very greenhousey kind of vibes.
It is, yeah. Very different to yesterday, but yeah, amazing.
We're here to talk about Stockport, so let's cut to the chase. You guys moved from your studio from Manchester to Stockport in 2018. Why? Why?
Why? Yeah.
Why?
Good question.
We moved here. We are an architect's practice. We also do development ourselves. So we've got a sort of specialism in heritage buildings. And about the same time, Stockport Council got Heritage Lottery funding for a townscape heritage scheme on the Underbanks. We owned a building there. And our first project here was the redevelopment of that building. In the process of doing it, we started to see seeds of what was happening here, and we thought, oh, we could go and be in the middle of all that. So we moved our office to that building. It's also got a restaurant in and a shop in that building on the bottom.
Is the restaurant good? Was that part of the?
It's an
was
Italian
that the
bistro, actually.
Oh, nice,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Does a good carbonara.
Oh.
Yeah. And we operate a co-working space from there because we like to be around non-architects and people doing all sorts of things, freelancers, small businesses. Obviously, we restored the building during COVID, and then we came out and it was all work from home. So we had quite a lot of people coming to join us, which was great.
Oh, what? So that worked in your favour because people wanted that kind of office.
It did in the
vibe
long
still.
run, but then you're like, we're in the middle of COVID, in the middle of lockdown, going, why are we building an office?
Yeah.
In the middle of the lockdown when everybody's moving out of the offices. But actually, a lot of people were working from home, got a bit fed up of working from home. Yeah. A lot of people wanted to live and work a bit more locally, so people like in the Heatons and Bramhall, instead of going into Manchester city centre, are then turning to Stockport to come and work. And it worked quite a lot in our favour in that sense.
Yeah, nice. I guess that's like kind of right place, right time, because there was a time there where you were like, oh, are people going to come back to that? And some people haven't, some people still work from home, and that's great.
Yeah.
But like you say, that kind of workspace, like what you guys have created, offers that, I suppose, that kind of in between, doesn't it? Where you can have, like say, just face-to-face contact with real people.
Yeah, people want to be in community at the end of the day, and it's kind of comfortable sitting in your own house doing your work, but then you do, and most people want to be around others, and it's Mustard, the co-working space, which is just off Marketplace, and lots of people who have come to work with us have ended up working together or collaborating on things, or it's those kind of connections which are really, really great. And also with like the change in High Street, and these town centres have lots of challenges in terms of business rates, the change in retail, energy costs going up. Different uses of buildings are coming into town centres. So part of our sort of development company is about creating new briefs for buildings in town centres, repurposing buildings that were used for something which is now not really functional. Co-working is a big aspect of new town centres, I think, and bringing footfall and mixing it up in that way.
Nice. And just going on that, like, using buildings for a different purpose now, like how important is that to you guys? I know you have done like mills and stuff like that, and obviously there's not much use for mills anymore, I don't think, is there? Like why is that important to keep that kind of old style building and give it a new life?
Most of the buildings that we're going to inhabit in 30 years' time already exist. So there's a massive kind of importance on retrofitting existing buildings. But then, in parallel to that, heritage is what really draws people. You look at like Stockport Old Town and the Underbanks and the Marketplace, and the Old Town is what really draws people in. It's where the main hub is. Yes, there's commercial centres around and different offerings around, but what attracts people is the heritage buildings and the heritage core, and you can't replicate that. Like from town to town. Every town centre has got a kind of 60s shopping centre, but you can't replicate history in the way that like a town has evolved. So it's really important to work on that and use that to to drive regeneration in town centres that's locally rooted and locally identified.
And the great thing about historic buildings, like some of the buildings that we work on are listed, a lot of them are in conservation areas, but they offer a lot of character already. So you're not working with a blank canvas. You go into a building, you've got the great ceiling heights, windows, and you've already got something there which creates really great places to be already. Whereas the challenge with new build is obviously you've got the sort of space constraints often. Viability is always an issue, whether you're doing restoration, retrofit, or you're doing new build. But at least you have the character that's already there.
Yeah, it kind of does a little bit of the work for
Exactly.
you, I guess. Because like you say, people want to work, especially nowadays when they've got that temptation to work from home, they want to work in a nice environment that feels real and like you say, spacious. They don't build buildings like that anymore, do they? They've not got that space inside where you can actually breathe.
Yeah, and if you work in a place that's sort of like uplifting, inspiring, it definitely sort of has a positive impact on your kind of well-being, doesn't it?
Yeah. Talking about positive impact, obviously Stockport, has changed over the years. You could be sort of, you could say at one point it didn't feel as proud of itself as it does now. Yeah. Why do you think that change has happened? What's made people go, actually, Stockport is a great place to come, to live, to work, to,
I grew up around the corner from Stockport and I've seen it transition. And we've seen it over the past kind of 8 years of being here, where it's people who were from Stockport tended to have a bit of a negative view of it, whereas new people into Stockport had a really positive view of it. And I think that is the kind of pride in place is now shifting, or when we've seen that shift for existing residents over the last kind of 8 years, where people who are from Stockport are really genuinely proud of being from Stockport. They can see the trajectory and they can see the potential and they're getting behind it. And I think that's the really positive thing about it is, previously people might have talked it down, but now they're kind of talking it up.
Like say, adapting them old spaces that people maybe at one point looked at and thought, that's not necessarily great to look at, but actually it is if you turn it into something that's not just great to look at, but great to, like say, work in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with sort of new businesses coming in, the nice thing about the start of regeneration is that you can sort of inhabit spaces relatively cheaply and have a go at your kind of idea of a business, which loads of people, everybody's got an idea for a business, haven't they want to do. And I suppose Stockport over the last 8 years or whatever has been the place that you could try it out. And some of those, by the very nature of that, some of them sort of have a go and don't work, some of them have a go and really work and sort of grow, and then they become part of the Stockport identity and the Stockport business community. Well, we're very involved in the Old Town and the sort of centre of it, and the business community there is very strong. There's a good support network, everybody helps each other out, makes the connections with people. That community is really important, I think, for people to take ownership of a place, and also the general sort of momentum and the general drive to push it forward. And then now, obviously, with that business community, there's people from Manchester, businesses from Manchester wanting to sort of like
coming in now, eh?
Now all the hard work's been done.
That's it.
Yeah.
No, nice. And staying on that, like you're saying there, the community and stuff like that. Like, are you finding there's a different range of sort of people that wouldn't necessarily you'd find in Manchester city centre? Is there a different demographic or?
I think people want to work in places where they feel like they can have an impact. A lot of people who work in our co-working space, and a lot of people who work with us want to feel like they're having a direct impact on the place where they live or the place where they work. We've both worked in quite big practices previously where you might be doing a project that's a couple 100 miles away and you don't necessarily see the impact of that project. Whereas a lot of the work that we do is kind of northwest based. So I think people really want to see that impact of their work.
Yeah.
It's nice to walk down the street and go, oh, we had a hand in that and we had a bit of involvement in that. And, you see the fruits of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of attracting talent and things like that to business, generally things have changed in the sense that now people are much more open to like living and working in the same place. Not everybody thinks I have to go into Manchester for a good job, because actually they'd quite like to be more local.
Well, it's accessible as well, isn't it? I guess, like you say, like, you know, it's more affordability, isn't it? You can buy somewhere nice in Stockport and kind of, you know, get on that kind of that ladder and whatnot.
There's a bigger range of demographics in a place like Stockport versus Manchester. So in Manchester, it's all very kind of young professional heavy, because it doesn't necessarily have the social infrastructure like the schools and the parks, etc. Whereas in Stockport, you have loads of schools, loads of parks, really good greenery on the doorstep, and so it attracts a kind of wider range of demographics, from young professionals all the way up to kind of retirees. And I think that's actually what makes it a really interesting place, is that mix.
I get it. It's like the architecture, isn't it? That old and that new kind of mixing together. Very philosophical.
Yeah.
What is it, do you think, about, you know, that kind of the historical side of Stockport that is the kind of the heartbeat of the area? Why is that such a...
I think it gives people identity, which has a lot of depth. You know, it's not just about the history and the sort of stories of the history, but it's about people sort of knowing where they're from, and it's about creating place. And part of what we do in the kind of restoration of buildings is giving buildings a new identity, but not sort of taking away from the past, so that you can kind of read what's happened throughout its life. You know, the building that we're in has been a hat works, like most things in Stockport. It's been a brewery, it's been a schoolroom, and now it's an office, a shop and a cafe, you know. And I think like the way that we sort of like to express design is so that you can always read that in a building, you know, and part of being a historical place means that you have more depth to that, I think.
The most sustainable and useful way you can make a building is make it relevant to today. So make it useful to how people live and work today. Big offices are kind of a thing of the past. In a way, you know, smaller, kind of more collaborative offices are becoming more of the way people work. And when you get a heritage building, you've got to make it useful and got to make it relevant to today. Otherwise, it's not going to be occupied. You've got to make it useful. And I suppose we see ourselves as kind of, you know, there's a 200-year-old building. We see ourselves as custodians of that. We've got to pass it on to the next generation in a better way that we got it ourselves. What's your long-term plan? Like, you know, what he's thinking of going forward? Naomi was saying we're architects, developers and co-working space operators. We've got a kind of vertically integrated business which looks at heritage assets and de-risks them through innovative design. For our future, we're looking at using that kind of model to unlock heritage assets that wouldn't necessarily be viable through other means. So we can use our design expertise to recreate heritage buildings into new uses, both in Stockport and further afield, and really drive into that. So over the next 5 years, we're going to hopefully build a portfolio of developments and a development pipeline that unlocks a lot of heritage assets that would have otherwise remained dormant. So we'll always work for, as Kelsall architects, we'll always work for other clients as well. But like I was saying earlier, what we like to do with our own developments is also design the brief, you know, and because we are in the middle of Stockport and we've kind of always got our ear to the ground on what's going on, and we feel like we're really well placed to sort of find tenants for buildings that are appropriate and that will sort of like continue the momentum of what's going on. So it's kind of having more of an involvement in a building's life from design all the way through operation, and sort of that's what we enjoy as architects, rather than just sort of going in for the design bit and then coming out. So in the more immediate future, we've got a couple of buildings in the Underbanks that we're doing at the moment. I keep pointing over there.
Well, you know, it is over there. Yeah, give the audience some perspective. Yeah. You know, we're looking out on
Marketplace,
the lovely marketplace in Stockport. But yeah. No.
So we've got a building which is going to be it used to be Santander, and it's two buildings which have been knocked together previously. So it's going to be one of the biggest units on the Underbanks. So that's perfect for a sort of larger potential food offering to go in there, restaurant and bar potentially. So we're talking to lots of people at the moment about who's appropriate to go in there. And then we have in planning at the moment is Stockport's first rooftop bar.
Oh, is this an exclusive?
It pretty much is, actually. We didn't talk about it before.
Clip this up. Here we go. Stockport's first rooftop terrace bar.
Nice. Which is going to be, just around the corner there,
Okay.
pointing in that direction again, next to the market. So it's going to sort of create a really good connection on the way from the station into Marketplace. It's got amazing views over Market, Robinson's Brewery, out towards the viaduct.
It feels like that needs joining up. I've always felt that. Do you mean like the train station?
Yeah,
because it feels like the train station's just out of the way, and then the town centre's. I always kind of felt that. So yeah, something that'll kind of bridge that gap and make it feel a bit more free. Hey, I'm sounding like an architect now. Make it more free flowing. No, I love it. I love it. And just lastly, there you were saying about keeping your ear to the ground and stuff like that. How important is that? Do you guys take that into consideration, listening to local residents and people who actually walk past these buildings every day? Is that something you kind of...
Definitely, yeah. And we know obviously a lot of the small business owners around here, but we also have people coming into our co-working space who are just residents of Stockport. They might be a freelancer or work from home, and so we know what's important to them, I think, as well.
From a ear to the ground perspective, it's you get quite a wide variety of viewpoints, some good, some bad, and I suppose our job is to kind of put that into the mixing pot and come out with a design solution that suits not just where Stockport is, but where it's going to be in 5-10 years time. But it's always really interesting to get kind of people's viewpoints on things, particularly from the different demographics and the different age ranges.
And I think, in terms of sort of regeneration again, you've got the people of Stockport who've been here for decades, who see everyone coming in and changing things. And I think that process can be a bit awkward and sometimes a bit painful for them. But I suppose getting them on board and making them part of that is really important. And I think Stockport is really good at doing that, putting on events in the underbanks that are for everybody.
And I think that's where, to be fair to the council, they have done a really good job in terms of not just building new things for new residents. It's listening to the existing community, really driving into what is the identity of that existing community, what are the needs of that existing community, and building around that, as well as attracting outside investment and outside residents. Ultimately, the town centre is wanting to grow. That involves bringing new people in, but you can't do that at the risk of alienating the people that already live there. And I think that's where the council have done a really good job, to be fair to them.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. And keep being, SK proud.
Yeah, we will.